for it is not mistaken purpose that causes involuntary action. I believe he means there it's not mistaking the purpose of action, or what you're supposed to do, or what you would have done, or what your goal would have been. It's not making a mistake in that. It's just the fact you didn't know about it at all. You didn't know the good at all. So you didn't make some mistake towards the good or pursue it in the wrong way. You just didn't know it at all, from what he said at the very beginning of the paragraph there, that every wicked man is ignorant of what he ought to do. So we use the term involuntary, not if a man is ignorant of the universal, but if he is ignorant of particulars, i.e. of the circumstances of the action and the objects with which it is concerned. That, I think, is the penultimate bit of this paragraph. There's one more sentence, but it's denouement, the down part after the climax. It's from ignorance of particulars that we say a man is involuntary. So he may have knowledge of the universals, but ignorance of particulars is what we say. We say he was involuntarily acting if he didn't know about the circumstances of the exact things going on in that situation. Because you can't say, as he did at first, that just knowledge of the good will make a man act good. He said that in the first sentence, but you can't just say that. So by the end of the paragraph, he's flushed it out and he says, by the way, knowledge of the good doesn't just mean the principles or whatever. It does mean the actual facts on the ground, the actual facts in reality. Now, that having been said, I still don't think I buy it. I still don't think that every wicked man is ignorant of what he ought to do. But let's flush it in Aristotle's terms now, of having to recognize the facts on the ground and the facts in the situation. If you were to go to an ignorant man, a wicked man, pardon, and tell him the facts on the ground about the bank robbery he's about to commit, he has in mind thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and buying whatever he wants, and you know that a lot of bank robbers blow the money and give it away. So it's actually a myth, the bank robber who has to pay bills. But anyways, let's imagine a bank robber who's in his mind, he's thinking about this heist he's going to pull. He's going to get thousands of dollars, and so his idea of the facts on the ground are very different from what reality is, if we take Aristotle's interpretation here. So what you might say to such a robber is, look, you're ignorant of the good in this situation. You're ignorant of the fact that first of all, this is going to bring bad stuff on you. It's going to bring possibly prison. They probably know that, and they've probably been to prison. But it's a floating abstraction in their mind. It's not a reality until they can actually see it with their five senses. They're very short term. So it's going to bring bad repercussions on you. But more to the point, it's not going to bring the good repercussions that you think it will. You're not going to achieve status of any kind, or happiness of any kind, or security of any kind through this heist. So that, I think, is what Aristotle's referring to when he says the facts on the ground, when he says the circumstances of the action and the objects with which it is concerned. The circumstances of the bank robbery and the stuff not only there at the bank, but in your life at home or wherever homeless shelter you live in or whatever, if you're a bank robber. The facts on the ground are what he's ignorant of. He's ignorant of the actual relationship between himself and reality, or he wouldn't act that way. And if he did still act that way, you'd have to call him psychotic or neurotic or insane or something like that, I think. Aristotle starts out that paragraph as a Platonist, but ends up by pulling it all together quite well, doesn't he? Now we skip an amazing full paragraph that's a page long. And the beginning of another paragraph we skip into there. Presumably, acts done by reason of anger or appetite are not rightly called involuntary. Now, it has a footnote for this. It says it's a reference to Plato's laws. where anger and appetite are coupled with ignorance as sources of wrong action. Now that is a total juxtaposition with the paragraph we just gone over on the previous page, where wickedness does come from ignorance, from not understanding the facts on the ground in the situation. So the anger and appetite have to be voluntary, and he's actually going to flush that out. So when you see somebody who's angry at work and they're acting like a jerk and they can't control their temper, you can say, no, I've read Aristotle, you can control your temper, that's voluntary. Presumably acts done by reason of anger or appetite are not rightly called involuntary. They should be called voluntary. For in the first place, on that showing, none of the other animals will act voluntarily, nor will children. Now I don't know what he means by on that showing. So the meaning of that sentence is lost to me because I just don't know what he means by the phrase on that showing. And secondly, is it meant that we do not do voluntarily any of the acts that are due to appetite or anger? Right? Now, if appetite or anger, like your appetite, your desire, you want to go get drunk tonight, or you want to go rob a bank, or you want to steal that guy's car, you want to go get in a fist fight and beat somebody up. Appetite and anger, either it controls you or it doesn't. Right? You can't pick and choose. You can't say, well, you know, sometimes I control it, but sometimes it takes me over. How do you choose when it does that? Are you being, you're insane, you're a psychotic, you're being arbitrary. So it's either voluntary or it's not. You have to choose. Or that we do the noble acts voluntarily and the base acts involuntarily. Are you going to take credit for doing the good acts? Yes, you wanted to do them, but the bad acts, the devil was always in control when that happened. Is not this absurd when one and the same thing is the cause, namely your appetites and your emotions? If that's the cause, then you don't get to pick and choose whether you were in control or not. You were in control. Your willpower, your choice is the cause. Continuing. But it would surely be odd to describe as involuntary the things one ought to desire, and we ought both to be angry at certain things and to have an appetite for certain things. Okay. The things that we should be mad at and things we should want. For example, he says, health and learning. We should have an appetite for learning and health. Also, what is involuntary is thought to be painful, but what is in accordance with appetite is thought to be pleasant. Okay? Right, if you didn't want to do it, but you have to, or you didn't have to do it, but you want to, those are different things. Like, I didn't have to eat the cake and ice cream, but I wanted to. Well, if it's voluntary, that means it's probably pleasurable. You wanted to do it. Or, I didn't want to till the field, but I had to because my master whips me. Well, you didn't choose it. It was involuntary, therefore it isn't pleasurable. That is an important, salient point just in the psychology of human action being carried out. Because there were farmers back in the days of slavery, and there are farmers today. Well, I mean, and then there were farmers who weren't slaves before we got tractors and stuff. Back in that age, there were free farmers up in the north, slave in the south. Now, when it comes right down to it, the Negro who's working as a slave and the farm owner up in New England where slavery's been outlawed, they're both doing the same thing. They're breaking the dirt, they're putting in seeds, they're making sure it gets watered or whatever. They're both doing the same actions at the end of the day. But the key difference is that one of them is doing voluntary things and the other is doing involuntary things. And like Aristotle said, pain is associated with the involuntary. So if you ever wonder, why can't you force people to think? Why can't you force people to do what you want, to design a better thing or come up with a better system? Well, ask Aristotle.